Google Hangout right now, but for some reason your camera's not on. Anyway, getting to the issue that you talk about, which is the governor's race in his poll. WWL, along with the Advocate, released a poll on Sunday and Monday, and the rest of this week they'll be covering other candidates, other elections. Basically, yeah, it shows that David Vitter is at 24, and so is John Bel Edwards. I think most people who are following this would certainly agree that this is the first independent poll since Bernie Pinsonet's poll. And I mean, I certainly feel like that. I think all the other polls, for the most part, have been contracted by somebody else that has some kind of relationship. This has a relationship only with the media. I think that they're probably more trusted than the other polls that are, again, there's some kind of relationship with the candidate. So anyway, it shows 24-24 and Joe at 15 and Darden with 14. So that's pretty significant. Also, it shows that in a 1-to-1 race, assuming a runoff, that Jay Darden would actually be beating Vitter by 7, and I think Angel by 5. Angel versus Vitter 5, and Edwards I think 4.
So all of them would beat Vitter in a runoff, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what the poll showed?
Yeah.
And do you agree with that?
No. No, at this point in time, no, I don't agree with that. There's a big factor that's not taken into consideration in these polls, and that is the influence of money. And there's no way that anybody, any of the current candidates, even with the super PACs that are out, or PACs that are out there, who are third-party PACs supposedly, this, I mean, Vitter's got, I'm going to say what, $8 million or so, $7.5–8 million to spend. If he feels like he needs to spend it during the open primary, then I would think he would spend it just so he can get there. And I think likewise, I mean, Edwards is at this point going to be there. The question is, how do the other candidates get there against Edwards or Vitter? That's really the issue. I just don't see it.
Our talk line, 504-556-9696. And of course, now we've got less than a month, Steve. This thing is going to be happening in just 3.5 weeks. The ads are flying, and you've got a lot of negative ads going out between Vitter and Angel, and Vitter and Darden. He is not touching John Bel Edwards, and
sure.
I guess he'll continue with that strategy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, why knock down somebody that you know that you want to get in the runoff with? So no question about it. As far as the ads, by the way, I think for the most part those ads are really pitiful. They're not dealing with the issues. They're more attack ads. I actually went through one last week, something that I was somewhat familiar with, and that was the David Vitter ad. Actually, it was an ad by his super PAC, and it focused on Angel and his abandoning the sinkhole at Bayou Corn, and also Angel's not releasing a letter that was sent by the company that supposedly is responsible, which is Texas Brine. So the commercial basically is hitting Angel for being negligent and or covering up a letter that from Texas Brine that was from 2 years before, that indicated there was some structural problem with Texas Brine's salt dome infrastructure. and so they're saying that Angel had that letter and that he didn't release it. And so that's what you're seeing on those commercials. And they're also saying that Angel is running from that. Now, I did some research. I got to tell you, there's no evidence at all that I have seen. And I, challenge Vitter campaign, the super PAC, to come forward with it. There's no evidence. There's no evidence that Angel actually knew about that letter. If he knew about the letter, then I think that would be something that he would have wanted to have considered. The letter, what the Office of Conservation, where the letter was sent to, is actually in the office of the DNR, Department of Natural Resources. However, it's a separate office. That office has supervisory control, operational control over those things related to the sinkhole. And by statute, it appears that Angel was free from responsibility. Now, I could be wrong there. I think that needs to come out. But so far, the Vitter people have not brought forward the proof. And I just think that's scandalous. I think it's scandalous that anytime, whether it's Darden, Edwards, and if your audience finds something that is that one of the candidates are running that are false, please send it to me. I think we have to clean up this really nasty and ugly and false advertising. And so anyway, that was one issue. The other issue is whether Angel left the department 1 week after the sinkhole developed, and whether or not he ran away.
Let me interrupt you. We've got breaking news. It is just occurring. Steve, want to get your thoughts and the listeners. It's just been announced on Politico here that Steve Scalise is running for Speaker of the House. And he is now going to be joining Kevin McCarthy and who knows who else, Daniel Webster, possibly Pete Sessions, Jim Jordan, in running for the top spot. We had heard earlier in the week that he was going to run for majority leader, which is Kevin McCarthy's seat. Seemingly there is now an opening, and he is running for speaker, which is big news. And I want to get your thoughts.
That's I kind of expected it. I think a lot of people expected it, that he would run for the top seat. I think that people feel, people who were a part of the revolution in the House did not believe that McCarthy, would be following their dictates. And so they wanted somebody who is more conservative, and Scalise, certainly is, I think, more conservative. And so that doesn't surprise me. Does it surprise you?
Well, that's quite a leap to go from number 3 to speaker, and to take on a guy who was technically ahead of him, and to do it in such short order after a lot of people have been sort of critical of what he's done so far in being one of Boehner's lieutenants. He's gotten a lot of grief for not being, I guess, more conservative. And then, of course, you had that, I think, phony scandal of the whole speech to the Euro group, which some are now bringing up. And I think he's being more direct in answering that and saying, hey, it's not something that corresponds to his views. He met with them. He met with all kinds of groups during that time when he was a state representative. So that's certainly going to come back up now that he's running for speaker.
Yeah. I'm sure it's going to come back up. I'm sure his opposition now will certainly bring it up. And likewise, I'm sure that Scalise has done his homework and thinks that he has a reasonable chance. Otherwise, he wouldn't be taking on the guy that he's been working with. So, I mean, this is politics, and anything goes, I guess. But I'm sure that he has done his homework and feels
So
like
you think he can win? I mean, you think he could be looking at the next speaker? I mean, remember, we've never had a speaker. We've had powerful people in Congress. We had a guy on the threshold of being speaker, Bob Livingston. Right. And then all those revelations came out. He resigned. He asked Bill Clinton to resign. And of course, Bill Clinton didn't resign. Right,
exactly. Look, I think anybody in Louisiana, whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, socialist, communist, whatever, would want to have, even if they had problems in their background 13, 14 years ago, they would want to have somebody, who is close to them to be Speaker of the House. I think that ought to be a given. And so let's hope that he's successful. Is the Euro issue still an issue? I think it is. I
mean, it came up. I heard some media reports about it just when he was running for majority leader.
Sure.
Running for speaker. I'm sure it's going to come up even more.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And David Duke will get his 15 minutes of fame again. And I mean, again, I think it's an issue. I don't think he really answered it. I think he would be wise to answer it in terms of there were some facts that were just in dispute, and I think he did what others have done. And not everybody, but certainly others recently have done, and that is run away from it. And so I think he ought to answer it. But at the same time, I hope that he does win.
Well, it would be big for Louisiana, although some say, hey, they would want somebody more conservative in there, but there would certainly be somebody more liberal in there if McCarthy wins. So maybe he is that middle ground candidate that could be acceptable to the establishment, acceptable to conservatives, and it could be that big opening he needs. Hang on, Steve. We'll come back with more. Also open up our phone lines to talk about this big news. Steve Scalise now announcing that he's running for Speaker of the House, which is number 3 in line to the presidency. And, of course, the most powerful position anybody from Louisiana has ever had in Congress. Also getting your thoughts on a new governor's poll showing David Vitter potentially in trouble with some of his opponents leading him in a runoff. You think that's a real deal? Has this whole prostitution scandal that we've seen now over and over again in ads, is that having an effect? 504-556-9696 and the saga of Bobby Jindal losing a big supporter. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more right here on Ringside.
This is Sidney Lee with AC Ambulance, and I got some great news. Daikin is now offering up to $1,200 rebate on selected equipment with a 12-year parts and labor warranty. And we are also
Steve. We're good now.
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, those topics are good.
Okay. Take advantage of this program. That's 467-1400.
All right, good deal. Hang on.
And by the way, no other manufacturer has a 12-year parts and labor warranty. So call Sid. You'll be glad you did.
The House of Shock presents The Resurrection. The all-new House of Shock is back, bigger and better than ever, with 2 all-new attractions. Seaman Scungy's Bordello of Freaks and the 3D event, Laugh in the Dark, starting October 2nd and every weekend through Halloween. Come early for live entertainment and a fully stocked bar. For more info, go to houseofshock.com. The House of Shock. You haven't lived till we've scared you to death.
To build a better Louisiana, we need bold, honest leadership. John Young for Lieutenant Governor. As parish president, John Young cleaned up corruption, brought transparency and accountability to Jefferson Parish government, created the Office of Inspector General and implemented reforms that saved taxpayers $15 million. John Young took the lead to restore our coast and to keep flood insurance affordable for Louisiana families. And as a former prosecutor, John Young will use his experience to work with law enforcement to reduce crime and keep our families and visitors safe. John Young's the father of 5 sons. He's pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. He'll protect our Louisiana values. John Young for Lieutenant Governor. Conservative leadership for a stronger Louisiana. Early voting is October 10th through the 17th. Election Day is October 24th. Visit johnyoungla.com to learn more and join John Young's fight for a stronger Louisiana.
Paid for by the John Young campaign.
It's another edition of Ringside Politics with a Punch and Jeff Crouere. We're on the air right now. Topics are hot. The host is cool. And we're waiting for you to shed some sunlight on our vast listening audience. Call Jeff Crouere now at 556-9696.
Hey, Steve Sabludowsky with us, Jeff Crouere here. It's Ringside WGSO. You can check us out 990 AM, also WGSO.com. Also, you can download your TuneIn app, follow us on your mobile device. You can go to Bayoubuzz.com, check us out via Google Hangout. You can chime in at 504-556-9696. Talking about, of course, the governor's race, new poll out showing David Vitter potentially in trouble. Also, your thoughts on Steve Scalise. According to Politico, he's going to be running for Speaker of the House. He's been number 3 guy, majority whip. And John Boehner is retiring, resigning, moving on, forced out. And now Scalise could be a candidate, maybe uniting different factions within the party, possibly. So it could be a strong contender. And Steve Sabludowsky, David Vitter, of course, if he gets elected, his seat opens up. And we heard from Colonel Rob Maness on with us. That would be, again, another free-for-all in that Senate race. We could have Kennedy running. We could have Bustani running. Could have Fleming running. That could be quite a Donnybrook.
Yeah, could have Mitch running, too.
Mitch Landrieu?
Yeah.
I guess so. Although I don't know what he'd be running on. Maybe.
No, that's a different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. You think Mitch still thinks he can win statewide?
Yeah. Yeah.
You do
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
I don't think he can win statewide.
Okay.
I don't think he's got after what he's done as far as the monuments, after his crime record in the city. I don't think he's got the accomplishments to run statewide. I really don't.
Again, to me, that's not the issue right now. I'm just pointing out that, I think that he would strongly consider running statewide for U.S. Senate, assuming that that office is available. Now, you had mentioned before we took the break, you had mentioned about the I guess prostitution. Let me just say this: I'm looking at numbers right now from the recent poll, and they asked if you knew that a candidate for governor has been linked to the customer list of a prostitution service and has publicly acknowledged for what he called a serious sin. Would that information cause you to vote for that candidate, against that candidate, or would it not affect your vote? Now, keep in mind, each candidate, except for Darden, had a question that was negative against them without acknowledging who that candidate
Right.
was. So the response to that was 46% said that it would not affect the vote. 44% said it would affect the vote. So depends, or 4%.
Right.
Don't know, 3%. So it's 50-50 on that issue. Guess what demographic I guess opposed it the most?
Tell us.
Okay. Democratic African women.
Yeah. Okay. African American women.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well, that's not. I mean, that totally. I mean, normally you would think African American women would be inclined to oppose a Republican. Vitter's a Republican, and maybe among women, you would think being linked to a prostitution scandal would be more negative. So you've got the fact that they're women and the fact that they're Democrats. So yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. They'd be the most negative about it.
Yeah, but 37% Republicans, okay, would vote against. So
well, yeah, I mean, you've got evangelicals.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of folks out there who I think are not pleased that he was linked to that.
And 44% independents.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got about 40%.
Which is why we keep seeing it in ads, right? I mean, it's why, why they keep bringing it up.
I'm just letting you know. Now, to be fair, okay, I'm looking at the impact of taxes. And it says here that 60% would not of the voters would not be affected by a candidate voting for tax increase in the past. 60% not affected. However, and roughly the same number, if I'm not mistaken, would want cutbacks rather than raising taxes. So, you know, it's in other words, you have a pass if you did it before.
Yeah.
So those ads that Vitter and Darden, Vitter and Angel have been tossing out about past taxes may not be the most effective.
All right, let's squeeze in a call, Steve. 504-556-9696 to join us. Open line here. Steve Sabludowsky with us, Jeff Crouere here at Ringside WGSO. Also Google Hangout on Bayoubuzz.com. We welcome our friend James in Metairie. James, good morning, sir.
Well, Jeff, good morning to you, and hello, Steve. Jeff, a couple of thoughts. Do the people of Louisiana really want to put another crook in the governor's mansion? In this case, a man who committed multiple crimes, and by the way, he committed grievous sins. I looked up adultery and those types of things. That's not a serious sin, folks. That's a grievous sin, according to the church, as I understand it. And he did it over and over, and the only reason why he stopped was because of the name of the prostitute he was having sex with while his wife was pregnant, just coincidentally happened to be the same name as his wife. And the guy who's also connected to the death of the D.C. madam. Did they really want to put a guy like that into the government?
How is he connected to the death of her? I mean, she committed suicide, right?
The woman, after Vitter's name come up, the woman was outed. It's been said many times.
So you think the fact that he was connected to her drove her to suicide? Is that what you're implying?
Jeff, it certainly could have, okay? But
you don't know that. You're speculating.
Well, I'm using my ability to express my opinion, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard the prostitute pack just endorsed David Vitter because they're very loyal to their best customers. But here's an idea for John Bel Edwards if he gets into the runoff with David Vitter. Have a commercial that says, John Bel Edwards, West Point graduate. He jumped out of airplanes to serve America while David Vitter, a filthy scumbag, jumped into bed with whores while his wife was.
So let me ask you this, James. You think this thing should be pounded over and over and over again? You think Edwards should make it, if he's in the runoff, and it looks like he will be, you think he should make it a signature issue in the runoff?
He should make it a very important issue, Jeff, because David Vitter being.
Now you've said on this show you think Vitter's going to be the next governor. Are you backing away from? Are you backing away from that prediction?
What this new poll is very, very encouraging. It's got to show, give some great optimism to his opponents. I think the money can start flowing into some of these other people. But seriously, Jeff, David Vitter and David Vitter's, what do you call a team, if you want to, of just people who do all this, the politicos, they would use this against John Bel Edwards. You better believe it. David Vitter is a low-life politician who will do anything to get elected. And it has to be done. We don't.
Is your favorite? I know you're a Republican. Is your favorite John Bel Edwards, or do you prefer Angel or Darden?
Jeff, I think Darden. It's what a shame that this thing is structured the way it is. I think Jay Darden would make a tremendous governor that we all could respect, and a man who could solve Louisiana's problems and not go off like Bobby Jindal and embarrass the state like David Vitter. Jay Darden for governor. I don't think it's going to happen, but boy, do I wish it were true, Jeff.
All right. Interesting comments from James from Metairie. Your thoughts, Steve?
Well, we have about a minute left, and that was very provocative. Yeah, I think it's going to be an issue. Whether or not it should be an issue, I think it depends upon your own personal beliefs. Yeah. One thing that I know is that adultery is one of the big 10 in terms.
All right,
of
hang on. Let's take a brief time out. Get a news update. Want to come back to more of your calls? 504-556-9696 right here on Ringside. It's WGSO. We'll be back.
This is Michael Savage. Join me in the Savage Nation, weeknights, 9 p.m. to midnight, right here on 990 AM WGSO in New Orleans. Give me 15 minutes and I'll give you the real America.
Savage.
USA Headline News. I'm Ron Taylor. Donald Trump says he'll end his campaign for president if he thinks things aren't going well.
I will go, and if I think for some reason it's not going to work, then I'd go back to my businesses. But right now, I think it's working very, very well.
Trump tells NBC's Today Show that he's still leading all the polls and getting the biggest crowds. He says he gets respect for the fact that he funds his own campaign and isn't under the influence of lobbyists.
I get the biggest crowds by far. I had 20,000 people in Dallas. I had 35,000 people in Mobile, Alabama.
The head of Planned Parenthood will be grilled in Congress today about the organization's use of baby body parts for research. Cecile Richards is being called to testify after a series of undercover videos raised questions about the organization's harvesting of fetal tissue. Republican efforts are underway to strip government funding from Planned Parenthood. Paul Walker's daughter is blaming Porsche for the car crash that killed the actor. A wrongful death lawsuit filed by Meadow Walker says Porsche knew the type of car that the actor died in had a history of instability and control issues. This is USA Headline News.
Get your Plenty card at Exxon or Mobil and start earning points at lots of places.
So I get points for filling up at Exxon?
You sure do.
What about getting coffee at Mobil?
Points.
Streaming TV shows on Hulu?
Definitely.
Points on my AT&T wireless bill?
Yep.
Buying soap?
At Rite Aid.
Buying you a birthday present?
Points at Macy's.
Visiting your parents?
No, you get marriage points.
Oh.
Exxon and Mobil are the only fuel brands that are part of Plenty, the rewards program that lets you earn points at one place and use them at another. Join Plenty for free through a participating Exxon or Mobil station today. Terms and limitations apply. See plenty.com/partners for details.
Hey, why are you guys tailgating in the parking lot? Because Kmart and Sears are giving Shop Your Way members surprise points that are valid until September 30th. So we're waiting for them to open. Wait, what?
Yeah, dude. Go check your account at shopyourway.com.
I just got my surprise points. Yes! You should use your points towards items like a fall jacket or a cooler. Yes!
You want a hot dog?
Yes! You want to hear some guy read legal? Yes!
Amount of points awarded based on membership status and other factors. Ask to redeem your points at checkout. See shopyourway.com for details.
This is Sidney Lee with AC Ambulance, and I got some great news. Daikin is now offering up to $1,200 rebate on selected equipment with a 12-year parts and labor warranty. And we are also a participating contractor in the Energy Solutions program where you can get a rebate for increasing the efficiency of your home. Call 467-1400 so you can take advantage of this program. That's 467-1400. And by the way, no other manufacturer has a 12-year parts and labor warranty. So call Sid. You'll be glad you did.
To get her students to not be afraid to ask questions in class, a teacher told them this: a person who asks a question may feel foolish for a moment, but a person who never asks a question will look foolish forever. And you know that's true in the spiritual realm as well. God told his people through the prophet Jeremiah, "Call to me, and I will answer you." God is not afraid of our questions. He wants us to seek him out to gain the answers and guidance that we need. If you can't find the answer to your question in Scripture, ask him directly in prayer. This is David Jeremiah, encouraging you to get on the road to new life. Discover God's answers on Route 66.
Route 66, driving the word home. Log on to Route66Life.com. Start your journey home today.
Are you tired of working for someone? Are you tired of making money for your boss and very little for yourself? If so, then tell your boss to take this job and shove it. Learn from Michelle Seiler-Tucker, the leading authority on buying businesses. Quit your job and buy a business with a proven track record and high income. Michelle will share the insider secrets on how to become your own boss and build your business to sell for millions so you can retire rich. Find out what business is right for you by visiting us at buyabusinessusa.com or call Michelle at 525-1717. We've got a lot going on, and thanks so much for joining us. Jeff Crouere here. It's Ringside WGSO, 990 AM, WGSO.com. Hey, we're available on the dial, 990 AM, and of course, WGSO.com. Your TuneIn app. You can check us out on your mobile device. Also via Google Hangout at Bayoubuzz.com. We're visiting with Steve Sabludowsky, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com, a Ringside All-Star who joins us on Tuesdays, talking about, of course, brand new polls out in the governor's race. Also, the Steve Scalise announcement running for speaker, big news. And, of course, weighing whether this whole issue of the prostitution scandal is one that is powerful or not. Certainly is one that has been mentioned in a lot of TV ads. And Steve, welcome back. Any comments you want to make before we take some more calls?
I'd like to give the positives for Vitter. I know we ended with a negative, and in terms of the poll, he's considered the best with experience to be governor, would provide the strongest leadership, but he would most likely continue the policies of Jindal. Now that could be positive or negative, but is most intelligent, most effective in getting things done, and would be the best manager of state government finances. So those are the good things that he has going for him.
And he's the most well-known. He's got the highest name ID, I would say, by far.
He does, but that's a negative because he has, when you consider 4% find him negative, and he's at roughly 87%, I think. He only has 13% room for growth. Everybody else is in the mid-50s.
504-556-9696. Let's get some calls in. Steve Sabludowsky with us, Jeff Crouere here. Let's welcome CA, who's with us in Metairie. Hey, CA, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Steve.
Hey.
I was calling, it's kind of interesting if you think about the history of the Louisiana 1st District. You've had Bob Livingston, who was becoming speaker. You had David Vitters from that district, who probably could be speaker today if he were still in the office. You have Bobby Jindal, who could probably be speaker today if he was still in the office. And then now you have Steve Scalise, who's also an outstanding person from the 1st District. But what's interesting is I keep thinking about everyone keeps coming back to this scandal of David, and I think he's a fine candidate, and he's been so effective and so instrumental in getting things rebuilt after the hurricane. And I just can't imagine why people are so hard on him about the alleged prostitution scandal. And I think, frankly, it was a shame that Bob Livingston got taken down by an adultery allegation. It was just ridiculous to lose all that clout in Washington over such a silly thing.
In hindsight, CA, do you think he made the wrong move in resigning? Should he have just stuck it out and tried to maintain the position?
Considering he was trying to use shame against Bill Clinton to get Clinton to resign, and it didn't work. No Democrats have ever been shamed into resigning by a sex scandal, so I don't know why the Republicans should be. But that's what happened. And it's a shame because, Mr. Livingston was a very effective legislator. But in retrospect, I think it would be just as ridiculous to have Vitter not run for governor, even though he's got all these high positives over that. He says he was sorry, and we believe in forgiveness as Christians. But nonetheless, I understand a lot of people are concerned about it. But I think that the things he's achieved have been so outstanding that I think he's...
So in the end, do his achievements win out? Do you think he's an ex-governor, CA?
I do, but there's a lot of Jay Darden's a great guy, and I have to say that he's been there. He's been yeoman's work in the legislature for a long time, and he's been Secretary of State. I don't know. I think that we have a lot of fine candidates, and I don't want to prejudice anybody. I'm supporting Vitter. I'll disclose that, but I do think that it's important that whoever votes their conscience, and I think if they consider everything, I think he's a great guy. And I wanted to mention one other thing, about Mitch Landrieu. I agree with you about that issue is hurting him, but I do think he'd get elected statewide again if it was the right office. I don't think he could go from mayor to senator, but I do think he'd get elected statewide again.
Well, he served as lieutenant governor for a while, so maybe he would think about running for something like that. I don't know.
I think he'd have to work his way up, though. I don't think he could go from 0 to 60.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Hey, good to hear from you, CA. All right, that's CA in Metairie, 504-556-9696. We'll see what happens with Mitch Landrieu. We'll even see if that position comes open. I mean, if David Vitter loses, you don't have an opening there. Let's go to John in Metairie. He's with us. Hey, John, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I heard James on the radio, and I just had to call in. He's stuck on this adultery thing and everything. So, James must have a high disregard for Martin Luther King Jr., who was an adulterer many times over. He must truly struggle with this. We are all sinners, okay? And James has a selective memory. He speaks highly of the armed forces. And, if we go back in the past, the same armed forces that slaughtered tens of thousands of Indians had atrocities in Vietnam. James he has a very selective memory. That's the only thing I want to say. And he needs to get over that. He really does.
Do you think this will all blow over? Do you think Vitter's the next governor, John?
I think so. I think people look, that they're done with this past stuff. Okay? Yes, he sinned. He and his wife have come to an understanding, and they've moved on with their lives. And most people are going to do that. When you don't have anything else to pin on somebody, you try to look at the personal things and use that to degrade the individual. That's a Democratic tactic over and over again.
Mm-hmm. All right, my friend. Hey, good to hear from you. John in Metairie, 504-556-9696. Steve wanted to bring up one other issue with you. Bobby Jindal's maybe most prominent supporter so far has been the guy from Duck Dynasty. and Willie Robertson. But at the Oklahoma State Fair last weekend, seems like Willie has switched sides, now talking about the fact that he likes Donald Trump. So I guess the Duck Dynasty endorsement has been withdrawn.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's been withdrawn. I think that Willie tweeted something, say that he's still with Bobby. Bobby posted that, so I don't think it's been withdrawn. But he's been certainly been courting Trump. I think it's I'd call it the Donald Duck dynasty. But but I mean, that's just my take. Let me just respond to the last couple of callers about David Vitter, if I might.
Yeah, they seem to say, hey, this is all going to be ineffective, and he's going to still be able to get elected governor.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of your callers in the past look to their religion, and we disagree about some things and we agree about some things. Religion's a really difficult situation. I personally do consider the 10 Commandments to be, very, very, very important. Adultery is certainly one of the biggies, and so for me, it's very important. If a person like Bill Clinton, John Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, I could go through the list. If Martin Luther King, like you said, if they committed adultery and were running for office, okay, I never had a chance to vote for any of those people or vote against any of those people, okay, but for me, that would be a big issue. So now, there's a big difference between having a sin and being a government official and running for office. If a wife forgives, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that the people have got to accept that forgiveness for that person who wants to be the top official in the state. So I think there's a big difference between sin and that is forgivable, that the wife forgives, and that people who have a right to vote have a right to decide whether or not that's important to them.
There are other factors as to whether people, quote, forgive. I think a lot of it depends on the individual's character, how the individual has addressed the event, whether you've got other viable contenders running against that individual, how that individual has conducted himself in other matters. So I think there are other factors. And with Vitter, I mean, we'll see. I think without this scandal, he is far and away the winner of this race without the scandal.
He's far and ahead the winner of the race as far as I'm concerned, because, he has the money. He did exactly what he pretty much told the state that we shouldn't do, and that is to be able to empower somebody to be in government for a long period of time. And now he's using money from outside the state.
And here's my problem with all of these guys, in that they've all been around for so long, Steve. I mean, Vitter's got elected to office in the 90s. I mean, he's been decades in office. Darden's decades in office. Angel's been in office for a long time. I mean, we don't really have a lot of, new blood in this, do we?
No, we don't. And to me, that's actually, term limits, I think, has a value. I believe that, I like the idea of new blood to have an opportunity. But like I said in the past, for me, I think experience does matter. Now, David Vitter does.
But you can have good experience. Doesn't have to be in politics. Look at the presidential race. Those that are not experienced in politics are leading. So I think the public out there is saying, hey, we want people from outside of politics to come in here and fix some of the problems that politicians have caused.
Well, I know that's what people are saying.
That's what the polls are showing.
That's what the polls are showing in terms of Republicans. I don't know if that's the overall. That's to me, I think people want experience. If you're gonna have,
But you can have
make,
valuable experience. Doesn't have to be in politics.
no,
It
but
can
if
be
look,
in the business world. It can
come on.
be in other areas.
I understand that, but if you can have brain surgery, you certainly want to have a brain surgeon. You don't want to have a politician. To me, I just don't know.
Look
why
at how the
you wanna have one.
politicians have screwed it up, Steve. I
Well,
mean, come on.
screwing it up. No, wait, Jeff. You have extremes who are controlling the middle.
Yeah.
That's what's screwing it up.
I disagree. I mean, certainly we haven't had extremes in the House. John Boehner wasn't an extreme, and he screwed it up big time. So
No. I'm talking about being able to legislate. You have extremes on the left and you have extremes on the right, okay, who are making demands, and those people who have been in the middle are not able to satisfy those demands from those two extremes.
And you know what? If they don't satisfy the grassroots, they should go. And Boehner should have gone a long time ago. He was ineffective, so he needs to go. As a conservative, Steve, you might call me extreme. I don't think I'm extreme. I'm a conservative. I haven't seen my views reflected in office in decades. I mean, I haven't gotten my way as far as a candidate since Ronald Reagan. So I'm looking finally for someone maybe to come forward who represent my viewpoint. And let's see how effective that person can be. We haven't had that kind of leadership. Here in Louisiana, we had a guy pretending to be a conservative, Bobby Jindal, but I don't think that's a fair test because he really didn't do the job. He wasn't effective because I don't think he focused on the position. So
yeah, I agree with you about it not being a fair test. Let me just say this, and we've talked about this before, but in my opinion, I think that that every poll I have seen, every survey I have seen, the conservatism that you have about some of the issues are not how mainstream America and how the voting public is in a presidential election.
Let me give you 3 examples, Steve.
I disagree.
I think my views on immigration are shared by the majority of Americans. I think my views on Obamacare are shared by a majority of Americans. And I think my views on taxes are shared by a majority of Americans. I think those are 3 big issues.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's extreme to say, hey, we should have lower taxes, we should have secure borders, and this Obamacare thing has got to go. So I don't know. I mean, that's what a conservative, I think, would espouse, and that seems to be a majority viewpoint.
Well, yeah, and this I just happened to look at something on my phone from Twitter, and let's look at other issues. I mean, gay and lesbian issues. The Democrats and independents are strong supporters of gay marriage.
Gay and lesbians. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just letting you know. Okay. In terms of increase in legal immigrants, 34% Democrats, 29 independents, 6% Republican. Restrictions on abortions. This is NBC, by the way, a Wall Street Journal. Real abortions, negative 43 Democrats, negative 11 independents, and plus 37. Meaning the Republicans plus 37 want greater restrictions, independents minus 11, and Democrats minus 43. I can go through this list.
Well, I mean, you can cherry pick one poll, a few issues. But I would say this: you mentioned legal. You mentioned legal immigration. I think there's a broad consensus that we need to stop illegal immigration. I think there's a broad consensus that we need to do something to make the pro-life position more palatable. I think pro-life is a majority. And as far as gay and lesbian rights, I would say this. You look at elections that have been held all over the country, Steve, and the traditional marriage view has prevailed in the vast majority of states. Of course, that was all overruled by 5 justices on the Supreme Court. but millions of voters affirm their support of traditional marriage.
Yeah, and that Supreme Court decision is the law of the land, okay, even though people are trying to say that it's not even constitutional. But here's something.
Well, I'd love to see the next president, the next Congress address that. I'd love to see action taken on that. You know, President Obama did nothing on the Defense of Marriage Act, Steve. That was a law of the land.
No, I understand.
He wouldn't defend it in court.
What I'm trying to say is that those people who are saying it's not the law and we should ignore it, I think I really have an issue with that.
All right.
It is a law. It is a law. And look, if it changes, then it changes.
All right. We're up against the clock, and I do want to squeeze in these last two calls. Let's go to our friend Rusty in the Quadas. All right, Mr. Rusty, you got the floor. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Steve, is he a Democrat?
No, I'm not. I'm a no party.
You're no party. I'm kind of surprised because you do sound like a Democrat. I find your comments a little
wait. Okay, go on.
Let him make his point, Steve.
Yeah.
I find you somewhat disingenuous. I don't know if you're doing it intentionally or it's just, just the way you're talking off the top of your head. First of all, I don't hear any Democrat or liberal person, because I consider you somewhat liberal, talking about in any way speaking negatively of Martin Luther King. He might not be running for office, but he's still a big figure in our society. And I don't think you would be discouraging that exaltation of Martin Luther King, even though he might not be running for office. And the same person that gave you the 10 Commandments, he also talked against homosexuality. So you're taking a few verses of the 10 Commandments and saying, don't commit adultery in relationship to David Vitter, who has made amends toward the people and his family, and it's apologized. But basically, you used a different rule from the Old Testament that says homosexuality should be approved. So the same guy that gave that law, don't commit adultery, also said don't have homosexual relationships. So I find your standards to be convenient.
Okay, can I respond?
Who should be in
all right. Okay, Rusty.
So,
all right, my friend. Hey, we got to give him time to respond because we got to roll to a break. Thank you. That's Rusty in the Quarters. Real quick, Steve, go ahead.
Okay. Martin Luther King. I think he did some great things. Okay. Incredible things. But let me tell you something. Okay. Had he been running, I mean, I think, I feel the same way about what he has reportedly done as I do about the other people I mentioned. Okay, so you're wrong there. You're absolutely wrong. Now, in terms of the gay issue, I read the scriptures, okay, that you're talking about. I read research about it, okay. Number one, it's not one of the 10 Commandments. Secondly, you're right. We're talking about an elective official.
All right, and Steve, we're up against the clock. Sorry, we're just out of time.
I understand.
All right, Steve Sabludowsky, thank you very much. Check out Bayoubuzz.com. My column will be posted there later on today. We got a